It wasn't a barbarian invasion. It wasn't a sudden plague. It wasn't even a military defeat on the battlefield. It was a slow, mathematical erosion of the very currency that held the empire together. History doesn't whisper. It shouts. The pattern is unmistakable. A civilization reaches its peak. It commits to obligations it cannot afford. Then, facing the political suicide of austerity, it chooses the only remaining option, inflation. We will look at 3 specific cases to prove this arithmetic is merciless. Rome, the gold standard of antiquity. But by the 1st century, the cost of maintaining the Pax Romana became crushing. The legions needed payment. The bureaucracy needed funding. The grain dole needed filling. Nero faced a choice in 64 AD. Raise taxes and risk revolt, or cut corners. He chose the shortcut. He reduced the silver purity of the denarius. Just a little, from 100% to roughly 90%. It seemed harmless, but the incentive structure had shifted. By the time of the crisis of the 3rd century, that silver content had collapsed to barely 5%. The currency was a ghost. A soldier's salary, once a path to land ownership, became worthless metal. The middle class vanished, the state survived, but the society fractured. Just like Rome, the Spanish Empire thought it was immune. In the 16th century, Spain controlled the world. Ships laden with silver from Potosi flooded into Seville. It looked like infinite wealth. It was actually infinite inflation. The price revolution began. Kings like Philip II waged endless wars on credit. They assumed the silver would never stop. It didn't stop, but its value did. Prices in Spain multiplied by 400%. The average Castilian peasant watched the price of wheat climb beyond reach, even as the country was awash in money. The empire defaulted on its debt not once, but 4 times during Philip's reign alone. The wealth was an illusion. The poverty was real. Just like Spain, the British Empire believed the sun would never set on its financial dominance. In 1914, the pound sterling was the world's rock. Then came the Great War. To pay for the trenches, London suspended the gold standard. They printed. They borrowed. They hoped to go back. They tried in 1925. But the math didn't work. The debt load was too heavy. By 1967, the Prime Minister was on television telling citizens that the devaluation of the pound did not mean the pound in your pocket had been devalued. It was a lie. The retiree in Liverpool found their pension bought less coal, less milk, less bread. The empire was gone. The currency had adjusted to reality. The pattern repeats in 7 distinct stages. Stage 1 is the era of sound money. The nation produces more than it consumes. The currency is backed by hard assets, usually gold or silver, and the economy grows through savings and capital investment. This is the ascent. Stage 2 sees the expansion of public works and the welfare state. The society becomes wealthy and optimistic to maintain this high standard of living and project power globally. The state begins to take on liabilities. The burden is manageable at first, but the appetite for spending grows faster than the tax base can support. Stage 3 is the pivot point of overreach. The government, now accustomed to limitless spending, faces a crisis, usually a war or an economic depression. The cost to address this crisis exceeds what can be collected in taxes. The politicians, fearing the loss of power that comes with austerity, begin to borrow heavily. Stage 4 is the monetary turn. The debt becomes so large that the interest payments threaten to consume the budget. The central bank or treasury begins to monetize the debt, printing currency to buy government bonds. This suppresses interest rates artificially, allowing the government to borrow even more. The currency is now being debased, but the effects are initially hidden in financial asset prices. Stage 5 is the emergence of price inflation. The excess currency leaks from the financial system into the real economy. Prices for essentials begin to rise. The government blames speculators, supply chains, or foreign actors. They implement price controls or subsidies, which only create shortages. Stage 6 is the flight to hard assets. The public loses faith in the currency as a store of value. Those with capital rush to buy land, gold, commodities, or foreign currencies, anything that cannot be printed. The middle class, whose savings are held in the devaluing currency, is wiped out. The wealth gap explodes, leading to severe social unrest. Stage 7 is the collapse and reform. The currency is either destroyed completely or revalued against a hard asset to restore confidence. The old debts are wiped out, either through default or through inflation that renders them meaningless. A new monetary order is established, and the cycle begins again. The data is not ambiguous. The currency enters a hyperinflationary spiral as the central bank prints to cover every liability. This was the fate of the Weimar Republic in 1923, where the mark became worthless in a matter of months, wiping out the savings of an entire generation and paving the way for political extremism. Third is a reset and restructure. This often happens overnight. The government acknowledges the currency has failed and introduces a new system, often pegged to hard assets or a basket of commodities, while writing down the old obligations. A prime example is the Nixon shock of 1971, which ended the Bretton Woods system and fundamentally changed the nature of the global monetary order. The machinery of the state will always act to preserve itself. The arithmetic demands a correction. The only variable is timing and pain. Subscribe to the channel. Educate yourself on history, because it is the only map we have. Focus on resilience. Understand the difference between currency and money and pay attention to the data, not the headlines.